Nice. All right. Well, if we're feeling ready, Wade, Jason, I can kick us off with just some brief kind of overviews here, and then I can pass over the reins if that sounds good. Though don't let me step on toes if there's any official meeting commencing that needs to occur. I'm not real familiar with the terminology that's required here.
Robert's rules. Yeah,
yes,
no
yes, thank you.
We'll go ahead and just start this meeting. I'll get us started. We'll do roll call, and then we'll kick it over to you to give
Perfect.
us a look at the numbers per the agenda. So
Awesome.
everybody, hopefully everybody got the agenda. If not, leave a message in, and we'll make sure you get it. Welcome, everybody. This is our RTP review meeting for the Utah OHV Advisory Council. We are grateful for everybody being here, and I just want to especially take a minute and thank Eric. This is going to be his last meeting. So he served nearly 8 years on this council already. Well, pretty much 8 years on this council already, and he's put in a lot of time and been a very knowledgeable resource to all of us. And I know that I've really appreciated all of your comments and all of your feedback during the meetings, and I think I speak for all of us when I say that. Thank you for your service, and thank you for joining us today. So appreciate you.
Thank you.
That being said, we'll do a quick roll call for everybody that's on the call. I'm just going to go down the list as I see it. Just tell us your name and what position you are in relation to the board, and then we'll have members of the public that are on as well. So we'll start with myself. My name is Jason Blanekagel. I am the chairman of this council and member at large. We'll go to Brody.
Brody Johnson, ATV representative.
Okay, I've got Carter Moore.
Hey, Carter Moore, Assistant Attorney General, Counsel for the board.
Okay, thank you, Carter. Eric?
Eric Nelson, I represent the dealers.
Okay, Evan?
Hey guys, Evan Beitsch here, Program Administrator for the Recreational Trails Program.
Maureen?
Contracts and Compliance Manager for DLR.
Mike?
Mike Cook, Safety Rep for the OHV Council.
Nicole Nelson?
Nicole Nilsson with the Public Lands Policy Coordinating Office.
Okay, Rachel?
Rachel Toker with the Division of Outdoor Recreation. I oversee and manage the OHV Recreation Grant.
Okay, Russ?
Russ Kazare with Utah State Trust Lands Administration.
Thank you. Wade?
Wade Allison, State OHV Program Manager.
And Scott?
Scott Winter, Off-Road Motorcycle Rep.
And I'm showing Dave on here as well, David Jacobson. Is he on, or is that? It's on a different list. Okay.
Yeah, we do not have Mr. Dave here with us.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Thanks everybody for being here. Turn the time over for 5 minutes of a look at the numbers with Evan, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Well, let me just start off by saying another huge thank you, and just, not only for just being a part of this process in general to each of you, but just for, your patience as we reschedule this meeting, your availability. I know it's a massive ask, asking you guys to evaluate each of these projects and to just be, part of this committee and a part of this process in general. So thank you. That's all I can say. Just thank you so much. Let me pause real quick. I will say Dave is here. Dave, I think, let's see. I'm going to have our moderator move you. I think you're not classified. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to keep going here. And hopefully, Dave, we can get you moved over to the correct assignment so you can participate in the meeting. But yes, just thank you. We appreciate you all as being a part of this council and a part of this process. So Let me just briefly go over the numbers because they have changed since we last met. So since our last meeting, we were actually able to identify an additional $325,000 in additional funding through rollover. So essentially projects that either came in just a little bit below budget, or projects that, maybe didn't finish their contract, whatever happened, projects failed to get off the ground. That funding has now rolled over to and is available for this year. So what that looks like is $1,887,000 total available for RTP. And so if we just split that in half between motorized and non-motorized, the motorized share of that is $943,000. So we are able to award all of that today. We do not have to award all of that today. It'll be available for next year if you decide not to, but that is an option. And so we have 12 projects that we'll be reviewing today. As of now, you guys have each received a list of those rankings based off of the scores provided by each of the council members. So we'll touch into those here shortly. Just a quick review of the timeline here. So we have our scoring meeting today. On May 14th, these will be submitted to the Utah Transportation Commission for getting on their list of approved projects. So that's sort of the initial meeting to get on their approval list. And then on June 25th is when they will actually award those projects. So we're getting on the list on May 14th. So all that being said, I just wanted to really briefly show you guys the tools you'll have at your disposal today. So for those of you following along online, I know this is a little bit of a different format than we're used to here. So let me know if you don't have access to this yet. I can shoot it over to you in a message, but I highly encourage you to use this scoring sheet to follow along today. So you can use this, as I mentioned earlier, it is ranked based off of the scores provided by the council. So these projects are ranked by the highest score down to the lowest score. So the highest ranking project is the Grand County government's submission for the Moab Trail, collaborative trail project. But anyways, within this spreadsheet, just to highlight a few things, you can access the Salesforce application on this tab, or sorry, on that cell. This link here will take you to the project folder. So all of the project information is accessible to you here, should you want to look at any of that during the scoring process. What else is in here? Let's see. So just, the amount requested, all that fun stuff. One more thing I did want to highlight as well. If you scroll over to the right side of this scoring sheet, you'll see if it was determined to be a high priority project based off council member input. So if this box is checked, that means that council member ranks this as a high scoring priority. Something also you can use this for, there is a little note section here. If you want to take any notes to refer back to for these, please make a copy just so that we're not all seeing your notes. Unless you want us to read your notes, that's fine too. That's that. What else do we got going on? I showed you guys the backup folder. You can access that through that scoring sheet that I just showed you. And then just another quick overview of just far as like some of the guidelines for how the Federal Highway Administration has told us we should be spending this funding. We split it down the middle, and that tends to cover most of the needs described here. But there is essentially a requirement that 30% goes to motorized, 30% non-motorized, 40 goes to diverse, which can mean either a non-motorized and motorized collaborative effort, or it can mean a project that supports multiple types of uses. So for instance, a trail that could be used for snowmobiling part of the year and for off-highway vehicles the rest of the year. So that diverse category is very, very broad. The only other thing I wanted to highlight is that we have 5% available for education projects total. So that 5% total is $94,000. So about $47,000 for motorized education. That's it. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to pass it over to you guys.
Okay, just a question. So if we don't spend or if we don't assign all of the budget today, that money will stay as motorized in a motorized bucket for next year, and it won't go to the non-motorized side. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So in previous years, it's really been the motorized category has been underutilized, and it's, kind of just been transferred over to the non-motorized side for that availability. I think we have that flexibility, and since we're seeing more participation with this council here, I think it makes total sense to have this money roll over and be available as long as it's spent within the specified kind of availability period. So we do have a limitation as far as timelines when it comes to spending this funding. So we have up to 3 years, I believe, to spend our apportionment. So as long as it's able to be spent within that time period, it's available to the motorized category.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you cover resource rundown then?
Yep, I covered the resource rundown. If you want me to pull up the agenda real quick, let me
I
show
think
you.
we're okay.
Okay. Yeah, as far as timelines here, so that's the resource rundown. Yeah, if you want to just run through the scoring process and what you guys like to see today, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, for sure. So scoring overview, and Wade, chime in if you've got an opinion, but basically we've got these 12 applications. We've all hopefully taken the time to review them. We can go through each of them as needed, or if there is somebody that proposes to approve a block of them at a time, we can do that as well, as we've done in other meetings. So what we'll probably do is we'll just go through, look at the list together, and if there's an identifying of the highest ranked that you guys want to block together and approve, we can go that route, and then take a closer look at the ones that were more in question and discuss those. Hopefully you guys have taken your notes, have good ideas on what questions you have, and then we can discuss those as needed. We don't have anybody we don't have any applicants on this meeting, do we?
We do not.
Okay. Okay. And then Evan, you have been working with the applicants. Have you reviewed these applications with them and have more information than what is on the actual applications that you could speak to? Or
happy to do so, on a project per project basis. But yeah, I have the same information you guys do. So everything you guys seen, I've seen as well.
Okay. That sounds good. Wade, do you have anything else on that?
I just bring you up to date. The Emery County one, the application 005649. That one is connected with a part of a match with the OHVR grant that they applied for. And just to update the council on that, they actually hired their 2 summer help yesterday. I sat in on those interviews. So that's moving along, and this one's kind of in conjunction with that one. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Thanks, Wade. All right. That being said, we will open it up. Is there anybody from the public that wants to make public comment? We ask that if you do, please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes each. But if so, we'll give the floor to anybody from the public that may be on that wants to make comment. Okay, well, seeing none, we'll go on to the next item on our agenda, which is the scoring. So, Evan, do you want to go ahead and share the scoring sheet so we can all see it?
Sure. Let's see here. Bear with me. All right.
Okay. Do you have the ranked one up that you can share?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Bear with me here, guys. Sorry. I closed out all my windows to reduce the clutter, and look where it got me. Let's see. Okay.
Do you want me to show?
Hey,
Oh,
I got it. Sorry about that.
okay.
All right, she's ready.
Awesome. Sounds good. Okay. So here's our rank list. Top few projects, 82 and up. We've got the Moab Area Collaborative Trail Maintenance, Southeast Utah Project Prep, heavy equipment trail work, and improving motorized recreation opportunities in the Moab BLM area. So we had a few, looks like we had a few that were unsure on these, but most people said recommend them as a high funding priority. Is there any discussion on these top three? Looks like Scott, you and Brody and Sheriff Curtis had also had a no fund on these. And Russ had a no fund on a couple of them as well. Any questions or any discussion on any of these three?
Maybe I'll just quickly add here that I was out of the country while we were ranking these. I have read them now. So I have no issues with the first three that we're looking at.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole.
And Jason, I'll just note, I'm happy to pull up any maps, photos, letters of support, all that fun stuff. So just let me know.
Oh, I actually do want to take back what I said. I think I'm trying to figure out if it's the same one. The BLM for Grand County one, I do want to have a little bit of a discussion on.
Okay.
Let me know when that's an appropriate time.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if that one's the one that I think it is, we know that I have a tendency to, review the wrong projects at the wrong time. But when I read the application for the BLM in Grand County, there was some discussion in the application about improving an obstacle on Pritchett Canyon called Down and Dirty. And after talking to some of the folks in the Jeep community, they feel like maybe it's just you need to kind of block off access to the stream where people are bypassing the obstacle and not actually improve the obstacle. So I do have some concerns with this one. People are calling it like a gatekeeper obstacle, and it's not, it's much easier than many of the other obstacles on this. So the Jeep community has a little bit of concern over them improving that obstacle. So I guess on that one, I would like to say, if we're going to fund it, I feel like the BLM should work very closely with the Red Rock four-wheel drive club down in Moab and the, what do they call that? The Grand County Trails Committee, Motorized Trails Committee. And it sounds like there was some discussion on this and it wasn't completely reflected in the application the way that they thought it had been discussed.
Go ahead, Scott.
When I was reading that application, they did talk about bypass routes, and I was a little concerned. Let's say if you're out there and you're saying, hey, I'm going to go try this new trail, and you get halfway through it and you go, I can't make it through this portion right here. There needs to be some balance in there. If there are routes around it already, that maybe they think about it before closing that extra route. So maybe that somebody that can't make it to it has an opportunity to continue on the trail. I realize that, you get braiding of trails because the obstacle's too hard, but I went through the Devil's Racetrack here over the weekend, and there were individuals in there that were struggling in places, and there were places to go around the obstacle. And so I think maybe perhaps you put that back on the people in charge in the area and say, hey, the people that are utilizing that trail, but I do have some concerns about just going and blocking off any route that maybe makes it easier to get around it.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I would second that thought from Nicole and Scott. I know I was trying to look and see if this is, I don't think this is the only one that they talked about making actually taking the obstacle and chiseling the rock out to make it easier. And one of them, I can't remember if this is it or not, has a picture of them fencing off the current bypass, what people are using as a bypass. And I think that they really need to, I understand obstacles get harder over time, but if there's a bypass that you could solidify and make to where it's sustainable and everything, then why not use it? And then that still maintains the difficulty of the trail, but allows maybe an obstacle that has got a little bigger and harder, allows people that experience. And so I would second that. And I don't really mind having them fund it or funding it, but I do think that we probably ought to kind of advise that they, instead of change the obstacle, they look at making a reroute for that obstacle, or a bypass, I mean.
Yeah, and one of the things that was kind of talked about in the communications that I had was, there's winch anchor points on many of the other obstacles in this Pritchett Canyon area, and this one doesn't have any, so maybe that's the solution. But yeah, maybe making the obstacle easier isn't the right one, especially for one that's considered, the hardest trail in Moab, to make obstacles easier.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Another thing on this application I noticed too, they had a site plan for a parking lot, and it looked like most of the parking stalls in that lot were pull in and back out stalls, which may not necessarily be conducive to the OHV community. A lot of people use trailers, and the pull in and back out option, it's not this one, it's one of the other ones.
1 second. Let's see.
No, this one has a pull in and back out, or a pull in and not really. This one might be for trailers too.
Yeah, I don't think this one's as bad. I mean, especially if it's all just a gravel area, people will just pull through. But the other one is, they're trying to leave trees in place, and yeah, it's just not very conducive for pull through.
Oh, here, I think I see
that one.
Yeah. Trailhead, yeah.
So anyways, that one didn't look as much like a motorized trailhead. Scott, go ahead.
One of the other concerns I have, we have like 3 or 4 grants in the same area to do trail work, and I don't know how many grants we should have in a kind of the same area, but I hope they're collaborating to some extent with each other to make sure whatever they're doing is it's done efficiently and that we get the most out of our money. And maybe perhaps we try to put some way that we require some type of collaboration with groups that are working in the same area, maybe not necessarily on the same trail, but I don't know. That's something that rattled around in my head a little bit.
Thanks, Scott. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I had the same thought, and I think I visited with Scott and Wade about this a little bit, that I have concerns that, because one trail maintenance crew might think, oh, we need to wipe that obstacle out, and the other one might go, no, well, that's what makes it fun. So, and if they're working in the same area, then that is a possibility that they either duplicate work or mess each other's work up, I'm with Scott. I think that with everybody wanting a trail crew now, I have no problem. I love seeing trail crews and actual maintenance being done, but I do think that where there's multiple trail crews in the same area, there needs to be one person that's directing that rate, one person, one group that's actually directing and making the decisions on what's being done to the trails. you know, if it's on BLM, maybe the BLM needs to go, yeah, we're okay with that project and this type of project for this section or whatever. But I do think that that's something that we may need to address in the future, is that if there's overlapping, you know, maybe if there's a trail crew in the area, we increase that trail crew instead of creating a whole new one or something like that, you know. So
Okay, thanks. Nicole?
I was just going to say, I recognize the same thing that Wheeler and Mike just said, that, you know, we have a lot of grants coming out of the same area. So, yeah, that's probably something that we should look at and kind of consider. So I'm glad that we're talking about it.
Yeah. Eric, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so I've been down in this area of the state quite a bit recently, and I guess there is so much use that I can't see more maintenance really hurting it. And from what I understand, all of these entities have to work through the government agencies to do the work. So the overall project should be overseen or at least known about. And I definitely understand the Pritchett. You know, I saw that and went, well, that's the reason for Pritchett, is making it too hard. You know, that's what people want in there. But I can't think of any other place on pretty much any other trail that you'd want to go in and additional work would be a bad thing. And I actually love this because all of these are for trail work, and it is so needed, and signage and all that stuff. I've enjoyed this grant, this FT, you know, this grant
RTP
process, RTP, more than the rest of our OHVR grants, just because it's actually work. And so I don't know, I'm not too worried about them doing the right thing when they're getting down there. I think it's great feedback, Nicole, on Pritchett, that we just say, hey, some people like that hard. Is there something else we can do there? But actually trying to organize a land manager or someone to go out and organize all these trail groups, I don't know if I agree, but that's just my opinion. So that's all.
Dave. Thanks, Eric. Dave, you've got your hand up.
One's kind of Jeep focused, one's kind of motorcycle focused, and the other one's like trail focused. So not as big a concern to me.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Nicole.
Wade, you probably know this, but don't they have something similar to Emery County down there, where they have like a trails committee where all the different entities come together and kind of discuss what's happening? And I mean, would that be a venue for just discussion on these to make sure everybody's kind of talking?
Well, and also keep in mind, the council is paying Keaton down there to do this stuff. The county has a coordinator, and you know, maybe we need to put a little emphasis on Keaton in doing this too, and keeping his eyes on that, because we are paying him out of an OHVR grant. Yeah, and you are right, Nicole. You have the trail mix, the Moab Trail Council. You actually have a couple of them down there where these forums come together. And a good pulse on it for the motorized community is Cliff. Cliff Coons participates in all of these too, and he can keep an eye on them for us as well.
Yeah, certainly. And I agree to kind of David and Eric's consensus that, yeah, the Right With Respect is all the single track, the other is the Jeep, and Grand County is just trying to fill in the gaps in between. So, but yep. Okay. Any more discussions on these top three? I guess, we just vote on them like we do the over, Evan?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Go ahead, Nicole.
Before we vote, I mean, one thing that's kind of coming to my mind is, especially with that one where it, Pritchett Canyon and Down and Dirty. I mean, I don't know really what the cost difference is, but I mean, is that one where maybe if they're reconsidering what's happening on Down and Dirty, they might need less funding. So maybe that's like, is now a time to talk about, do we kind of reduce the amount of funding? Do we give them the full amount of funding? Like what's the, yeah, I'm not sure the procedure there.
You can certainly recommend a different funding amount. And if that's something that you would want to propose and somebody wants to second it, then we can look at that if that's a route you want to go. And then I guess, Evan, you would just be giving them that condition on the approval.
Yeah, exactly. So just let me know. I can pull up any of these budgets and we can take a closer look, and you can specifically fund, elements within their budget, and then you can specifically not, or specifically exclude any elements you don't want to see.
Let me run through their budget really quick. Maybe we can work
Sure.
voting on the top two while I'm looking at the budget on that third one.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to divide that one out because they don't necessarily have a specific area. They just have all of their materials and all of their labor grouped together.
Right. So I'll read this out if that's helpful in case people can't see it. $40,000 going to signage, $10,000 to wooden fencing for delineation, about $5,000 for various tools, $15,000 for additional delineation materials like posts and cables, trail marking materials, metal kiosks, and then let me just kind of fast forward here. These big ticket items at the bottom would be $30,000 for metal kiosks, and then $40,000 for trail work, planning, and on the ground labor.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to pull out, specific amounts, because I mean, there's so many other parts of that project, and I do think it is good, and other parts need. I just worry about the Down and Dirty part. And maybe it is funding it with the, caveat that they need to work with that Grand County Motorized Trails Committee and the Red Rock 4-Wheel Drive Club on Pritchett Down and Dirty, and make sure that they're not making it too easy. I mean, one of the things that I've had come back to our office and on other trail work items, and I can agree and disagree with folks, but they've told me that trail work has made a trail so easy that it's not even fun anymore. So that's something I've been trying to watch out for is, level of trail difficulty and trying to match the work to it.
Evan, can that be put into the contract, that the recipient work with the Red Rock and the Moab Trail to make sure that the work being done there meets the needs of the user community? Can that be language we add to give Nicole a little comfort on that?
We have our contracts guru, Maureen, here. I don't know if, Maureen, you're able to weigh in on that. But I will note, just from from my awareness of the applicant, they work very closely together. The Grand County BLM and then the county themselves coordinated on all of these efforts that are actually the top 3 ranked projects. And then our trail crew is also pretty engaged with that. But Maureen, I don't know if you're able to weigh in on contract language.
Yeah, we can put it contingent upon. So any requirements you guys put towards a project, I include in the contract. So yes, it would be in there.
And you're okay in putting in there a group or a local user group?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they would need to collaborate with them.
Okay.
That would be great, because I did call the Red Rock 4-Wheel Drive Club, and the way that I read them the application, how it was worded in there, and they're like, that's not how we discussed it. So I think there's some miscommunication there. So I would love for them to talk again.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Eric, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just real quick. I love this conversation. I love how engaged we all are. There's an example, a specific example that was kind of surprising to me, but at the same time, I was pleased to see it. So there's an obstacle called White Knuckle on the Behind the Rocks trail down there. And it's a big wall you drop off. It's always been pretty scary in a two-seater, in a Jeep. I mean, all of it. It just depends how many rocks are at the bottom. I think a lot of us are familiar with it. But there was some trail work that went on and made a slightly easier route off the side. And the hard part is still open. It's still available. People are still dropping off it. But it also allows the people that don't want to hook up a rope to them, or just, it's pretty intense. These trails down there are pretty intense. And so that, I thought, was a perfect blend of trail work, making it safer, and then still retaining the hard part. And so, again, I like that we could maybe throw in some verbiage into the contract. I think that's important, but at the same time, I think there's balance to all of it. And so, yeah, I love it. But
well, if I could just briefly note, sorry, cut you off, Eric.
No,
I was just going to note within the budget. No, I'll just show you guys real quick. Within this Grand County budget, within this BLM budget, they did list a couple of volunteer groups that would be helping out with the in-kind supports. Just to give an idea of some of the groups they're working with here. Ride with Respect 4-wheel kind of division, it has been listed as an in-kind partner. Tread Lightly and Grand County's motorized team has all been listed as volunteer groups, providing an estimated $12,000 worth of collaboration here. So just listing that as well.
I think that's Red Rock 4-wheel drive, not Ride with Respect.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so with the caveat of adding that language to the contract. Yeah, sounds like.
I don't know how to raise my hand, but I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
In addition to Red Rock 4-wheelers, Moab Friends for Wheeling should be included in the discussion of on Down and Dirty. Unlike White Knuckle Hill, Down and Dirty doesn't really have place for a bypass, right? So it's freaking gnarly, but I don't know what you're going to do for a bypass, or so I want to make sure that both those groups are included in it, because Jeff Stevens with Moab Friends for Wheeling does a lot of the trail work in coordination with the BLM down there. They have a different approach than Red Rock. They're more about having, the actual users, not just Jeep Safari users. So they both are great groups, but they each have a different approach. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Brett.
I like that. Maybe I would make that motion that we approve the top 3 with the third one having some language added to the contract that says that the BLM should work with Red Rocks. And Brett, what did you call that other group?
Moab Friends for Wheelers.
Okay, and add Moab Friends for Wheelers and have the BLM coordinate with both of them to make sure that we're not, making an obstacle much easier than it needs to be for the trail.
Okay. And Jeff wrote a note of support in one of these grants. I don't remember which one it was, but you can get all those information from that letter, or I can forward it.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the top 3 with those conditions as listed by Nicole. Do we have a second?
This is Brody. I second that.
Okay, Brody seconds. Let's do a roll call vote on this.
Hey, Jason, is that the first 2 or the first 3?
First 3.
Okay.
Let's go. Hold on. Let me pull up my list again. Let's go, Brett.
Yes.
Brody.
Yes.
Cheryl.
I don't vote. Thank you.
Okay, that's right. And Dave, you don't vote either?
Correct. Recommend, but non-voting.
Okay. Eric?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well.
Thanks for voting for me, Scott. I was a yes.
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Okay. Those first three are voted for.
So, yeah.
Go ahead, Evan.
No, I was just going to note that says $302,000 worth of projects awarded. And so all three of those are in Grand County, and all three of those are trail maintenance projects. So
okay,
that leaves us with a balance of $641,000.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Next one on this list is the Utah Avalanche Center motorized backcountry safety infrastructure project. Looks like several people on this one recommended not to fund it as a high priority. Any discussion, please raise your hand and we'll get to you as we get to you. Go ahead, Mike.
This one I have, I don't know. I mean, I'm the new guy on the block here, but I've been, just seems like we're funneling a ton of money into this. And I know it's a good thing and safety and stuff, but it just seems like the project that'll never end and keeps asking and asking. And they have this one, and then they have a nonprofit that we give money. I mean, we gave a pretty good chunk out of the over and pretty good chunk out of this. And I'm not necessarily saying that we shouldn't fund it, but I mean, if you took that 87,000 or 85,000, you could probably almost buy a beacon for almost every snowmobiler in the state, so I mean, that might, if you gave what we've given them this year, you probably could buy a beacon for everybody in the state pretty much, and I think at some point we might want to start looking at maybe a more practical way of, I mean, if they took that money and actually put on courses with beacons that gave people beacons and taught them at a reduced price, we'd probably save a lot more lives than it would probably be, in my opinion, it would probably be more effective than just putting all this money into just forecasting. I just think that we probably ought to just maybe kind of start looking at, or maybe the Avalanche place maybe ought to start looking at different ways. And then I don't know, I have a real heartache with the ambassador program part of it. I just don't think that that's a good use of money to have somebody sitting at a trailhead. I just think I just don't think that's a good use of money. So if we do end up funding it, which I'm okay with, I would ask to cut that part of it out, that the ambassador program staffing and the ambassador program materials, that much of it. And I think there's better uses for our money than those two parts of this grant.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Any other discussion on that one, Nicole?
After listening to what Mike said, maybe we should move on and decide if we want to fund the rest and then come back to that one. And if there is additional funding, maybe we can add to that one, but maybe kind of look at the other ones, because I hear what Mike's saying fully.
Okay. That's fine. Any other questions or discussion on that one before we move on?
Nicole, that's a good idea.
Okay, let's come back to that one then. Next application is the Emery County signing crew equipment. Application 5649. Let's see, they're trying to get a side-by-side and a trailer to support their trail crew for Emery County. Nicole, you've got comments?
Yeah, I guess I'm full of words today. I'll just say I support this one. I think the last time it was signed, I was a seasonal at the Forest Service, and I don't want to tell you how long I've been with the state. So it's been a while. I kind of support this.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments on this one? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on this one. We'll do roll call. Let's do Brett,
Yes.
Brody,
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Let's see, Mike,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes. Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Okay, next application is the U.S. Forest Service Arapian Trail OHV. This is the San Pete Ranger District. It looks like they are looking to replace their side-by-side. Is that right? Thanks, Evan, for pulling that up.
I thought it was an ATV they're replacing, but maybe I'm wrong.
It's
I
a
think
50-inch OHV.
I think it's a 50-inch side-by-side.
Hey, Evan, who was the letter of support from? Can you pull those up?
Of course. Let's see here.
Was
So
there
one from Snow.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say one from Snow College, one from San Pete County, and then one from the Rome West nonprofit.
And wasn't there a request from San Pete County for some sort of like trail dozer to do trail work that their county roads folks would be doing? Is that a different one than this?
Yeah, it's a
Correct.
different
Yep.
one.
Okay.
I can, if you guys would like my input, if not, Jason, tell me to shut up, but I worked with that ATV they're going to replace. This is money well spent. They, trust me, I know the machine they're replacing. I worked on it.
Okay. Any other discussion on this one?
Wait, it probably was there when I was a seasonal too.
It probably was.
Hey, this may be a longer question than we want to take on at the time, but why don't they just address that in their application? I mean, they never tell you how many pieces of equipment they have, what condition they're in, how much use they're going through. They just put in a request for another one. It's like, well, it'd be nice to know where you're at on everything else, but
You make a good point, and that's something I think that the council should consider too. When, especially if you have competing ones and limited money, who articulates that need the best? I think you hit it right on, Russ.
yeah, they don't really give you enough for me to like weigh it out in my mind as far as prioritization for awards, but I don't know how we work with them to get things better written, more information in there. They're telling me all these highlights about the trail, which, you know, I'm familiar with or whatever. Like, just tell me when you're talking about a piece of equipment, tell me the ins and outs of what's around it and what's going on and what you need.
Russ, that's valuable feedback and something that we may take you up on if you guys have some specific. We will be sending out a survey after this scoring meeting, and we're always looking for feedback to give the applicants, and that's like gold for them. So like if you guys have some commentary on these projects that we can share with the applicants in the future, and we do have some trainings coming up, that's, like I said, I think that'd be really, really valuable for the applicants and would hopefully increase the product that you guys are seeing, a better, high quality product.
Yeah, I just felt like as I read through them, like a lot of the equipment ones, they're giving you a lot of trail commentary, which is basically irrelevant. it's like, give me the details on the equipment. So.
Yeah, just gonna say on your grants tour, that could be something that is shared as well.
Absolutely.
Especially as we're getting more and more applicants, more and more asks each cycle, understanding that this will give you an edge up. Okay, any other discussion on the Forest Service application for?
I do have one thing. Evan, can you pull up the bid on the side by side?
Yes, let's take a look at it. You want to see the
actual
bid document? I'm not sure if I saw it. Maybe this is it. No. I'm not sure if we have an actual bid document. I have the budget, and that was for the 18,000.
So I've noticed this on a couple of them that either their bid looks like it came off the internet, off of like the manufacturer's website, not from a local dealer, or it was just kind of plain. Is that a common thing, or am I missing something somewhere?
So within the application itself, we do not have a specific requirement for that documentation, but I can say that, when it comes time for reimbursement, they would absolutely have to provide us with that, the invoice and the proof of payment and all that same process that they would go through with state funding. But if that's that's the kind of feedback we're looking for here. Like if that's something you guys want to see included in the application. It just
seems like on our other grants, they're always putting in bids from an actual dealer and not just off the websites of the manufacturer, the national website, where you just go in and build your machine on the website, but that's not really the actual cost. And so unless I'm missing something, I just haven't been able to find actual bids from actual dealers, which kind of is odd to me. That's
great feedback. Thanks. No, that's good feedback. If that's something this council thinks would be beneficial, we're more than happy to add a question to include specific bids, or to actually have a bid document included as an attachment.
Thanks, Brody. Cheryl, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we actually, federal employees, we actually can't provide a bid because until we go out and put a contract package out and go out for bid, that kind of is all we can get. Like, we're not allowed to go outside of that contracting process and go get bids from like local vendors. However, once that contract package gets put out, that bid goes out, and any vendors locally, they can, obviously put in for that. And we also don't really ever know the total amount because, again, it's all based off of the contract. So just a little bit of FYI for the federal partners, like that's probably the best they're going to be able to give because it's got to work through contracting.
All right, that's good to know that. This one's Emory. This is a county government one, and
no, this one's.
I thought this was a Forest Service one, but just so you know, people may have limitations like that where it's like, hey, this at least shows you we're in the ballpark of what this is going to cost. Sometimes the contracts come in less, and sometimes they come over a little bit more, just depending. So just a little FYI.
Thanks, Cheryl. Okay, any more discussion on the U.S. Forest Service European Trail OHV? All right, let's go ahead and vote. Let's go with Brody.
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well on that one. Okay, next one down the list is the Puffer Lake Legacy Trailhead Project. This is in Beaver County. Beaver County is the applicant on this one. Looking for funds specifically for the trailhead at Puffer Lake. I remember looking at this project. They've got a very large budget because they're including all of the aspects of the improvements at Puffer Lake, including like a UDOT shed and other things there. But It looked like this one was specifically for the trailhead. That's what they're seeking the RTP funds for on this one. Any discussion? I'll open it up now. If you have any questions or comments about it.
Yeah, a few years ago when we approved the purchase of this land, this was one of the requirements that we asked them to put into a grant in the future. Some kind of trailhead for winter access or parking for riding your vehicle on the mountain. So they're just following up on what they agreed to in the past.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Any other comments or discussion? Cheryl, go ahead.
Yeah, I reviewed this one and I'll be honest, it felt really confusing because they did expand the scope so wide because I was like, I don't understand necessarily, you know, what is part of the RTP project and what isn't. So there's that. And then I think the other part about this that makes me a little bit concerned that it's strictly on the motorized side is that they said in the future they're going to add a non-motorized trail that's going to leave from this motorized trailhead as well. Which feels kind of interesting to me. Maybe it could be more of a split, but it's one of those things that looks like they're planning a non-motorized trail to leave out of there in the future.
Yeah, I had the same thoughts too. It looked like there was certainly a non-motorized aspect to it, and also looked like access to the lake for anglers.
Yeah. Which I'm guessing that parking lot's going to get a lot of that being that close to the lake. So to me, it's just one of those confusing, like, how do we really make sure it provides OHV trailhead parking? And how do you actually understand what's part of this grant? Because there's so many factors. Yeah, UDOT sheds and all sorts of things that I'm like, I wish they would just keep it to whatever is in this grant, both what the ask is and what the match is, because otherwise it's very confusing.
Yeah. Scott, you had your hand up.
You know, initially I called them because the grant talked about a crusher, that I think the RTP grant was directed at a crusher. They wanted to purchase a crusher. And when I was talking to the guy there, he finally went back and says, oh, they have changed their mind on it. And I said, well, that's probably a good thing of changing their mind, because I'm not sure they want to buy a crusher because it would maybe limit them what they could do with it. But I do have some issues of what's going on in here, and it is kind of confusing because they've pulled money from different areas, and it's hard for us to see where all that money's coming from, if it's OHV money or if it's some other grant money, and that's true across some of these other grants that we're not maybe necessarily privy to, or maybe it would take us time to dig into it to figure out what match and where they're pulling it from and what ideas they have. But it appeared to me that this grant was directly for the crusher. So if they've changed that, what have they changed it to? Are they just going to buy the aggregate? Are they going to rent the crusher? I don't know.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Maureen?
Yeah, DOR has quite a few contracts for with Beaver County for this property, and we're currently trying to get them to complete a master plan so that we're not piecemealing items. So I would recommend, talking this through, and I just wanted to give you guys that background that we're still kind of waiting so that they're not asking for lots of things that in the end might have to be changed out.
Okay. Brody?
In just listening to some of the people in Beaver County without telling them about this, they get the impression that Beaver County is just throwing things against the wall and seeing what's sticking. And so I just listened and they just talked. And there's a lot of concern about this. They know that it's going to happen at some point, but they're just kind of confused about how it was put together, the whole entire everything from the very, very beginning of the Puffer Lake purchase to now. So I don't know. I wonder if we can maybe even hold off on this one till they get their other stuff in order, like what Maureen was saying. So something to think about.
Okay, thanks, Brody. And one of the things that I noticed as well is that they did not have any OHV groups listed as their partners or in their
That was one of the other frustrating things with the club there is they were caught blindsided several times by this. They're not sure if they've angered the county commission or what, but they just feel blindsided by this, all of this.
Brody, I've heard that same from the local OHV users as well. You know, they're coming to us for money, for OHV money, and they just have not included the local OHV group in this like I feel they should. And they have a very solid group there that's very actively engaged with the Forest Service and other public land users there.
Well, and they even so far as have their own trail equipment that club actually owns, and they use with the Forest Service permission to go out and do stuff. And so they do feel a little let down by the county to some extent. And so, yeah, and they would be the ones probably doing a lot of the county's going to come to them asking for manpower and things like that. And so they're just a little bit frustrated. I'd recommend that we hold off on this one, give them some time to get their ducks in a row and relook at it the next time around.
Okay, thanks, Brody. Scott, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I do. I find it interesting. A year and a half ago, when we funded that $800,000 for Puffer Lake, the one question I had is who owns the land underneath the water, and that is still not known. They haven't figured that out yet, which I find it kind of intriguing.
Thanks, Scott. Cheryl, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I agree with Brody because again, I think my hardest part is there's so many things going on here. I can't even tell what the actual RT project ask is and what the match is. So I would love it to be actually toned down to like if it's the trailhead, then to me all the matching components should be the trailhead, not a shed and fences, like all these other things that are in that whole general area. Like, yeah, their match looks amazing, but I agree with Brody. I think it needs some refinement.
Thanks, Cheryl. Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, especially after listening to comments, I noticed a little bit with that crusher too with Scott that they were going to crush a bunch, and then I'm just like, wait, we're paying to crush all this dirt, and they're going to put some of it on the.
Hey, Evan, when is the next RTP cycle? Is it next year or is it sooner? What are we looking at?
It's next year. Yep.
So that would give them time to really work with you and also with Rachel on anything that on the other side could help with and make this worthwhile. Because the project at the end of the day is going to be a wonderful project when it's all said and done. It'll be nice. The OHV community will love it. Everybody else will love it too, but just a chance to do it a little bit better and a requirement that they get those letters of support from the local users that are going to be asked to do some backbreaking work.
Thanks, Brody. Nicole, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just a little bit of a devil's advocate. It's been a while since I've been up to Puffer Lake and some of that area. Last time I was up there a few years ago, it was getting pretty busy. If we're holding off a year, are we creating problems up in this area? And I guess that's maybe more of a Brody and others in that area question.
I think they'll survive. They've got other fish to fry with that project up there that they could be working on. And so one of the concerns that like the local club has is they were supposed to come up with an agreement between the county commission and UDOT and or the highway patrol to permit people to actually go up the pavements without being harassed by the highway patrol, which, bless their hearts, that's what they're supposed to be doing. But they were supposed to pattern that agreement after Iron County from Parowan to Bryan Head, where the highway patrol backs off on citing people, where but they've yet to do that. And so it's a little bit of a frustration with the local club that it'd be a great thing at some point, but they've got a lot of things they've got to complete first. So I think they'll be fine.
Thanks, Brody. Dave, go ahead. David, you've got your hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we
can.
Yeah, the biggest user group that'll impact if you don't do it this year is snowmobilers. There's nowhere really to park at the end of that road in the winter. So if this parking lot's in place before winter this year, there'll be a place for snowmobilers to park. So.
Well, if next winter is like this winter, there won't be snowmobiling or anything.
Yeah, and we may even recommend to, or ask that you recommend that they come to the first round of the overfunding as a possibility too, if they get these things figured out. Okay. So let's, I guess on that one, let's just go ahead and vote. I'll accept a motion to table this one. If somebody wants to make it.
Jason, don't we have to vote on that to just say no?
We could just vote on it and say no, or we can just table it and not vote on it.
Can we do that?
Rachel?
I would recommend that you do not table this, that you don't have to vote on it, but don't table it. Because if you table it, we'll have to bring it up next grant meeting to discuss it.
Okay. Let's vote on it then. Let's see. We'll start with Eric.
No.
Kurt, sorry, Mike.
No.
Nicole.
I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm gonna go with no.
Russ.
I'll go with no.
Scott.
No.
Brett.
No.
And then I hit Eric, right? Oh, Brody. Brody's next.
No.
Okay. And then I'll vote no as well. Okay. Moving on to the next one down. This is the European Trail Dozer. This is one that Nicole, you were asking about for San Pete County. So, Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could kind of move this one down to the bottom of the list too. My decision on how much to fund it would kind of depend a little bit on what's left too. So.
Okay. Anybody else opposed to that?
I would support Mike's suggestion.
Okay, we'll come back to that one then. Next one after that one is the signage project for the Monticello BLM. It looks like they're looking to get a side-by-side to go on their trails and do some signing. Any discussion on this one or any questions you guys have? Okay, well, let's go ahead and vote on it then. If we don't have any comments or questions, we'll start with Mike.
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Brody?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well on that one. Okay, next one on the list is the Science Certified Guide Trading Program from Science Moab. This was an education request. Any comments or questions on this one? Go ahead, Nicole.
I'm not sure if I understood this one correctly or not, but it seems to me like they're developing their own certified program, which also almost seems like you could do this as a business yourself and not like it could be like a business that somebody starts and provides, and guides could purchase the service and have their certification. So I'm not sure it's something that's like a grant should fund or not. And maybe I misread it, but yeah, this seems like a business and not really like a business venture and not really what this grant's for, but I could be wrong.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Brody, you've got your hand up.
And again, I could be wrong too, but they mentioned a couple of times about for-profit, paperhead, and correct me if I'm wrong, but have we funded a business before? Because they're not. It just seems like we haven't, because we're funding federal, county, state, municipality, 501c3s, and all of a sudden they're mentioning paperhead and for-profit, things like that, and so, or am I reading that wrong?
From an just stepping in real quickly, from an eligibility perspective, we would want to see that they're a 501c3. So if that's something that you guys have picked up in your review, that would very likely disqualify them.
Sounds like Brody and I read it very similarly.
Yeah, I mean, unless somebody else knows, able to determine that they have a 501c3, but I mean, the idea is nice, get people out there to learn about the geology and the history and whatever else, but if they're actually charging people to do that, that's I think that takes us down a different path that we don't go down.
Okay, Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, right in my notes, it says, sounds like a consulting business, shouldn't fund a business. I'd have a hard time justifying funding this to the motorized users if I just don't think I could justify, look at the users and say, yeah, we funded this and it was a good use of the money. So I agree with Brody and Nicole. So.
Thanks, Mike. Maureen, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, looking at their W-9, it's listed as a C Corp. So it's not identified as a 501c3.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Okay, well, that's ineligible.
Easy enough. Okay. I don't think we even need to vote on that one, do we? Okay, let's go on to the next one down the list. This is the OHV trail equipment for Garfield County. This is their road grader. They're looking to purchase to maintain Class D roads that serve as primary OHV travel corridors.
Where do we stand at on the balance right now before we talk about it?
Yeah, they pulled up real quick. So right now we have a balance of 393,000, but let me just kind of show you the distribution right now. Make sure it's refreshed. So just to kind of give you guys an idea, it looks like about 300,000 of that has gone to maintenance projects, 198,000 to equipment. And that also got picked up as equipment. So yeah, that's the rundown. Again, that leaves us a balance of 393,750.
Okay, and there's 4 applications left. Okay, Dave, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in OHVR, but just concerned that they're blading or wanting to blade roads that are, two track in a style that's unique and really experience that riders are looking for. So not necessarily against buying a piece of equipment, just changing the character of a lot of roads that a lot of people like to ride.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, 2 questions. One is how many more asks do we have You know, we have the 393,000, but how much is left? How many asks do we have
So
left?
we have two more projects that we have not discussed, and then you still have the Utah Avalanche Center project and the Monticello BLM were two projects that I believe you moved on from.
Mhm. I don't know. I have super mixed feelings about this one. I second I really don't like the idea of just dropping the blade on 400 miles of 2 tracks. But I did talk to Garfield County, and they do have, you know, it's kind of I don't know. I talked to him and it changed my view a little bit, but I don't know whether, you know, if I could get some guarantee that they wouldn't just drop the blade and blade 400 miles of 2 tracks, if they would just kind of just clean them up a little bit here and there and make them passable, then I would be more likely to say yes. But I do have a little concern about just changing the aspect of 400 miles of trails.
Cheryl, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I guess my question with this one is I don't think the council voted to move forward their over grant ask, which was 145,000 of the matching needed to make this purchase anyways. So I guess, is that accurate that the council did not move that forward? Because if so, then I think they're $145,000 short of even being able to buy this equipment.
That's correct. Scott, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I do. There's these two pieces of equipment, this grader and the cat, that I have concerns about. I'm wondering if we need to put a small committee together, 2 or 3 people, to actually go talk with them, have them show us why they need these big pieces of equipment, and maybe we can have some adjustment, and maybe they can convince us what the need is, because right now I have concerns. I had a conversation with a longtime employee of the Forest Service today that's worked for the BLM for several years and for the Forest Service for several years, and they have concerns about these bigger pieces of equipment being used on trails. And Mike and I have talked a little teensy bit about it, that maybe these aren't the best for what we want to use them for, and they're probably going to get used for something else than what we intended them to be used for. So I don't want to not fund them, because I've had conversations with them and they talk about all the routes that they need to work on. But I do have heartburn on these big pieces of equipment. That bulldozer has a 110-inch wide blade. The road grader is over 8 feet wide by itself. So I don't know, Evan, if that's possible to say, okay, we can fund them after we go down and talk to them. It's always been good when I went on the ground and talked with them and have them show me what they're going to be doing, and maybe they can convince me, or maybe perhaps we'll convince them that they don't need this piece of equipment.
Thanks,
Any
Scott.
thought on that, what I had to say?
Well, and something else that I was thinking with this too is, if this is just to do, or to get the roads or access up to snuff, does it need to be a full purchase of equipment, or could it be just a lease for a summer that they can go do the work and then it's fixed for a while and spend substantially less money than what is needed? But look, to your point, Scott, I mean, if they own the equipment, they're going to use it for more than just trails. They're going to use it for anything they can. And part of the other one too is they were using B road funds to help purchase it as their match. So, they're obviously going to be using it on B roads too. And how much of it is going to be used for the trails versus how much of the roads, it's not very clear on either of these.
Yeah, and just to address the lack of match, and I think you just spoke to it, Jason. They do have a match beyond that over pending grant. So as you just noted, there's 115,000 coming from their B Roads fund. So thank you.
Nicole, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think the part for me on this one is like, and I think maybe we all kind of have the same idea in our head, is when I think Class D, I think like kind of a 2-track road, but not all Class Ds are 2-track roads. Some of them are, you know, it's just kind of how a county designates them. And so some of them are actually roads that do get maintained pretty regularly and are used pretty frequently. And so I think that's kind of, for me, like, yeah, I think there is a need, especially because a lot of these D roads provide access to other, you know, other areas. So for me, I'm kind of in on this because, yeah, Class Ds are not all created equally.
Some of the discussion I had with Garfield County is that a lot of this was going to be done on Forest Service ground, and that the Class 2 roads up there, that they say that the BLM, the Forest Service are unable or can't afford to clean these routes up, and these roads or access routes are they said kind of in the middle of no man's land, and they need to be maintained. I'm not against that. I guess I need to almost be on the ground to see what they're going to do and say, okay, I'm okay with what you're doing. I got the impression from Garfield County that if they didn't get funding, they would still try to pursue getting this road grader. And so I don't know if it'd be the same with the bulldozer, but I need to see what they're going to use it for.
Yeah, I visited with them also, and in their pictures they have a before and after, and the before's a 2-track, you know, obviously it's got some whoops in it and everything, and after's a graded road, you know, and I mean, we're talking a 12-foot blade on this thing, you know, even sideways you're going to have 10 feet wide, which isn't too wide, but if you're trying to get a 12-foot, I mean, most of the forest roads that I think of, you can't get a grader down them because the trees are too tight, you know. And so, yeah, that's my concern. And he said, well, that road goes to a trailhead, and people need to be able to get to the trailhead. And in that instance, I would totally be okay. Yeah, you know, the road to a trailhead should be pretty good. But if you just run right over the trailhead and grade the trail behind it, then it's taken away from the experience. And so, yeah, I just, I have some heartburn with, just kind of goes back to it might improve the experience for one person, but take it away from a lot of other people, you know. And so, I just have a little heartburn about having them just, you know, and 400 miles of road's a lot of road, you know, to where they could probably get a little smaller piece of equipment and spot maintain, fix the real bad spots, and move through it. So.
Cheryl, go ahead.
Yeah, I put this in the chat as well. I think my comment wasn't so much about them not being able to make the match as it was, can they even afford the piece of equipment if they don't have that $145,000 of over? Because it looks like it's a $460,000 piece of equipment from their budget. So I don't know if they could come up with that other 145 or not, but that was more my question, not so much the matching.
Well, the next suggestion I had, if they were going to go this route and be able to get that, is maybe apply for the next round of over to get the rest of the money they need on it. And indeed, if they need this piece of equipment, and the guy I talked to down there was really says we really need this piece of equipment, and so.
Go ahead, Nicole.
I kind of think like like Scott just said, like, I do think that, there is a need for it. I think the county could use it, and I do think it would be used wisely.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and vote on this one then. Let's start with Mike.
Dang, I was hoping you wouldn't be. I have heart.
Hey, Jason, before we vote on it, can we talk just a tad bit more about it? I think if somehow we were able to go sit down and talk with him and have him show us, and I don't know how much that would complicate this whole process, but can we say, hey, we'll fund it after we go, let's say we just hold the funding out there and say, but we need to come down and see what you're going to do and have some commitments from you of what you're going to do and not do with it.
Yeah, I'll just say, like, to me, this application is missing a lot of information. You want to blade some roads, you better declare which roads you want to blade. And not just simply by the class. Like, you need to really identify some miles and put those on a map.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks. Nicole, you've got your hand up.
I mean, just kind of going off of what Scott just said, I mean, could we just write in, if we approve this, write in that, a few stipulations, like, I don't know any good ones off the top of my head, but, don't, improve the roads beyond, X width and, just a few criteria to kind of help the county understand the way that this committee would like that equipment to be used and considered.
But, and to your point, both you and Scott, I think at this point, if they're not prepared with that information, they're not quite prepared to make a solid application. And it's come back next time type of a thing, in my opinion. I just, and kind of to Russ's point, that if they don't have good information, we've seen really good applications in the past where they identify specific trail problems that they've inventoried, they've identified the routes that they're going to fix and how that equipment is going to be used to fix them. And they don't have that here. They just have, this is a bunch of roads that are critical paths. And so there's some holes in this one, and they may just not be prepared as we need them to be. And if we're having to go back and forth with them, maybe it's the back and forth and then come back next time and let's talk about it. Dave, you had your hand up. Did you have any?
Oh, you touched on what I was going to bring up. I know there's a feeling that they don't need to have NEPA because they own the county Class B roads because they're RS-2477. I don't know if the BLM and the Forest Service necessarily feel that way as well. So just a thought that was in their grant.
Yeah, there's probably definitely a difference of opinions on that. Flipco might even have a differing opinion than the BLM on that. So we do have some court findings recently.
Well, and this is a equipment purchase. It's not necessarily but yeah, again, to your point, like, where are they actually going to be using this? And we don't know that, other than they've got a large spider web of the whole county. So, okay. Any other discussion on this one? All right, let's go back and take it back to Mike.
Yeah, I just not too comfortable with it. And as And let me just read it. The money, if there's extra money, it will stay in the motorized RTP fund, right? Evan?
I apologize. I was responding to a text from a from a council member. Can you say that again?
If there's extra money left over, it will stay in the motorized RTP fund, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay, Nicole,
Yes.
Russ,
No.
Scott,
Yes.
Brett, is Brett still on?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Brody,
Yes.
and then Eric,
Yes.
and then me, I'm gonna say no. So where does that put us on funding it?
I think that puts you at a tie.
Ruh-roh.
I don't know. I was holding out my fingers as you were counting. I'm glad to go past 5.
So we
Marie might have the numbers for us here.
You're right, Wade. It is a tie.
Well, thank you, Maureen. I'm glad my fingers were on. I was just counting and was going, you got a
I'll
tie.
change my no to 2 no's. I'm not sure if I can do that.
Okay, well, how do we handle a tiebreaker?
I think Evan, jump in, but I think you could open it up for some more discussion, and where it's a tiebreaker, you could vote a second time if there's any additional discussion after you voted.
Is it that, or does it need to be a majority vote to fund it?
Is there a caveat that could convince one of us to change our minds?
I guess that is a good question. I would ask on those of you that said no, like, are there things that would make you feel more comfortable? And I guess you could ask the same question of us that said yes.
I would throw in just a 2 cents about Garfield. They are very pro OH. They are on part of the front line with RS 2477. They have a wide span, if some of you may know. They go, in fact, they're probably one of the longest. Well, they maintain a lot of roads on the other side of Lake Powell that people don't realize, that Garfield County stretches over and borders Wayne County, clear on the very eastern edge of the state. So just some thought.
Well, and if there's anything I can speak slightly to here, it's the fact that this was an application that they moved over from the over grant cycle very quickly. So, any of those kind of questions that maybe weren't as detailed as you might typically want to see, I will say I think they completed their application in one day. And I don't know if that speaks to preparation or not, but it was moved over from over very quickly.
I guess, Nicole, to answer your question for me, that said no, if they leased for a year and reduced the amount they were asking, I'd probably be okay with it. Because to me, that shows that they're just going to go in and fix these problems, and then basically it seemed like the problem is these access roads to the trailheads. And another thing for me is maintaining roads to trailheads. That seems like those should be maintained roads, not necessarily a trail by themselves. So, but I do want to help the community. I don't know these roads exactly, and I don't know what they are trying to do specifically. They say that they're critical routes. And if it is that critical, let's get them fixed. But I don't think we necessarily need to buy a $460,000 piece of equipment to make it happen. I think we can do it with a lease for a summer and make it happen that way.
Can we suggest that?
Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I kind of, that's, I mean, my big concern is just, we kind of had the same thing happen. We had some roads that were 2 tracks and just kind of nice, fun roads, and they got bladed for some reason. And I think the reasoning was good, and it probably overall, I think they were bladed to make sure that they didn't get closed, but it did, that was probably 10 years ago, and they're still pretty good roads, and lots of times those go back to where they're kind of fitting that trail category, but it did change the experience of driving those roads and stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, if I could, I'm like Scott, if I could go down and see what they're planning on doing, then I might change my mind. But without that, I just need some kind of insurance or assurance that they weren't going to go, when I think of trail maintenance, I think kind of spots that need it. And sometimes that is put the blade down and go, but, yeah. So if there was some kind of assurance that they were just going to kind of spot maintain, then I would probably change my mind, but I don't know that they could give me that especially without me really being familiar with it. So.
Thanks, Mike. Scott, you're up next.
Yeah, a thought that I didn't bring up before, and Wade reminded me of it. I think Garfield County is the most pro-access county in our state, and they have worked hard to keep routes open. They're reopening routes that have been closed for years. And on that note, I want to give them kind of benefit of the doubt to some extent. And if Salt Lake County was asking me for this, I would say absolutely not. But Garfield County's asking for it, and they have done some really neat things. They've opened some routes that are just great, super good routes. And so I guess that's why I'm saying, hey, I'm willing to fight for them, and maybe even if they get it, I will still go down and ask them what they're going to be doing with the machine.
Okay, Nicole.
Yeah, and I guess Wade kind of spurred a thought for me as well, and kind of stems off of what Wheeler was just saying. But Garfield County has a great partnership with its surrounding counties where they, where it doesn't make exactly the perfect, it's easier to access from another county, or it's easier to access from their county to do trail maintenance. And they work very collaboratively with some other counties. And so I think this tool could be used more than just right there in Garfield. It could help some of the surrounding counties too.
All right, David.
Yeah, I realize I'm not a voting member, but my thought here is I agree with Nicole. All Class B roads are not created equal, and some of them are bladed and maintained for a permittee or other reasons. So if they wanted to maintain those roads they're already maintaining that are county Class D, I think that would be appropriate. Maybe that would be a caveat that would make everybody feel comfortable. So instead of saying you can just maintain all county Class D, it's county Class Ds that are currently being maintained at some level with a machine.
Well, if they're matching money from the county and saying, okay, this machine is going to cost this much, can they say, hey, we're going to match it at this level here, and we will use it at 20% of the time on a Class B road or 10% of the time on a Class B road? Can we figure this into the equation? I know that's not said in the grant, but we've done that before with other pieces of equipment where it's non-motorized and motorized, and they have to match. But
I don't think Garfield County specified B money coming into
no,
it.
they did not. But I'm just saying,
Yeah, that was. Yep. Russ, what's your thought?
So they moved this over from over, but they still included that pending grant money from over, which they weren't approved. So I don't know how you really advance it when one of their funding legs isn't.
I would suggest that they
there
go ahead,
for them.
that they go ahead and reapply in 2 months on the next cycle if they have to have that funding. But I was told that one way or other they're going to pursue this grader, and they would like some help. He says it might take them a couple of years before they get it if they couldn't get any funding from the grants. And I guess right now I'm fighting for them on the deal, I suppose. So I'll just leave it at that.
Mike, you're up next.
Man, this is hard. You know, if we'll just write in there that they'll, if I, you know, that, and I don't know, just write in the suggestion that they just maintain the trails, especially just the 2 tracks, and leave the majority of them 2 tracks. If we'll just write that suggestion into the grant, I'd change my name or change my vote.
Nicole?
And I think my comment kind of goes along with Mike's, but I like what David had to say. Like, you know, could we write it to where it says only the roads that are currently being maintained? And then my suggestion was kind of what Mike's just saying there is, you know, and spot maintain where needed, you know, because sometimes you get gully washers and road kind of washes out and you're going to need to go spot maintain. So, you know, if we kind of give them a little bit of guidance on how we'd like to see it used, like, I think that could be a good way to move forward.
Maureen, do you see any issue with that?
No, so you're thinking of giving them the full funding then, so we're not going down the path where we'd want to say anything about leasing the equipment.
That's not what I'm suggesting. My suggestion is give them full funding, but just write in the grant, like, to be used on already maintained roads and, you know, spot maintenance on unmaintained roads.
Okay, yep, I have that down.
So does that mean I have to change my vote to yes? Is it to move this on? So,
Well, I'm just trying to think through that too, because what's going to prevent them from saying, "Oh, yeah, that road's now a maintained road"? You know what I mean? I don't know how you even police that, or it would just be so nice if we had a map of what roads they're looking at. Eric, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just sorry, I can't even talk. It's the end of the day. Reiterate what's been said before is I trust Garfield County's judgment at this point based on everything I've seen them do in the last 5-6 years that they've been coming to us for funding. I don't think there's going to be a problem with them just dropping the blade and grading everything. I think they understand what a good experience is, and I'm just going to have faith that they do that. I mean, we don't go out and police everybody else. I mean, we can make our thoughts known. We can make a recommendation. Hey, you know, if this grader, it'd be great if you didn't ruin the experience by turning everything into a highway. But at the same time, I've got faith that they'll use their heads. So that's my thoughts, and I'm ready to vote.
I'll just quickly add, I think Eric makes a great point. I mean, if we fund this, we can kind of give them our 2 cents, but if they find funding other ways, you know, our 2 cents or not, they don't have to consider them. So.
Okay. Well, with those conditions, let's go ahead and vote on it again.
Jason, one more thing. there's no restrictions in using RTP money for B roads.
Okay, yeah, and I think I had a question about that too, which I think yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and vote on it. We'll start with Nicole then.
I'm a yes.
Russ,
No.
Scott,
Yes.
Brett,
Wheeler talked me into it. Yes.
Brody.
Yes.
Let's see, Eric
Yes.
and Mike.
Yeah, with the suggestion that they just are careful not to ruin the experience. So.
Okay, and then I'll vote yes. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This is the Salina Motocross and Mountain Bike Park Phase 1. This was the same application that we had at Over, where we ultimately decided not to fund it at that one because the landowner issues had not been taken care of. Is there any updates on that, or do we have any more information?
None was provided to me.
Okay. Let's go ahead and vote on this one then. We'll start.
Quick question. So there was no agreement between the city and the landowner then? They never reached an agreement?
No.
Okay, just wanted to double check that.
Okay, thanks. Russ?
No.
Scott?
No.
Brett?
No.
Brody?
No.
Eric?
No.
Mike?
No.
Nicole?
No.
All right, and I'll vote no as well. Okay, the next one, let's go back up to the trail dozer for Sanpete County.
Quick question, where are we at on funds?
Yeah, thanks for asking, because I do need to clarify something real quick. I did miss it. I mischecked a box earlier, so I gave you guys an accurate total. So right now, we have awarded $600,000, so $600,545 awarded, and there is a balance of $343,000 still available. So $343,022 available.
Okay, thank you, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
What grants do we have left to look at?
Trail dozer and the forecasting, avalanche forecasting.
Yep.
So if I do my math correctly, which is really hard because I don't have enough fingers and toes, but we should have enough to fund the rest. I mean, would anybody be opposed to the idea of just blanket funding the last two, or does anybody want to have just further discussions on them?
I'd like to have a little discussion on this trail dozer.
Okay.
So my thoughts is, I mean, it's a little dozer as dozers go. It weighs about 20,000 pounds. It's 6-foot tracks, has a 9.5-foot blade or something like that. But it's still a dozer. It's a one-purpose machine, strictly to put, I mean, that's all dozers do is push dirt. My thoughts is, and I called and talked to them, and they're just like, well, that's what the road department said they wanted, kind of, that's what they needed to do these roads and stuff. And so, and the guys said, well, we're going to do 80 miles of road and we're going to smooth them out so our older people aren't getting beat up so much. So I have a little bit of the same heartache with that they're just going to take 80 miles of 2 tracks and turn them into nice smooth roads. But my main thing is I don't think it's the appropriate piece of equipment. They can buy, for our trail crew, a couple of years back, we bought a skid steer that's roughly the same size, same horsepower. It's about 120,000, and it's way more versatile. You can get a little dozer blade, you have buckets, forks, grader attachments, and I think that would. I'm okay with this grant if they would look at buying a skid steer and some attachments. I think it would be a lot better, more versatile machine and get it to places easier. It moves around, I just don't think a dozer's the right piece of equipment. And I I can't remember his name, like Elmer or I think it was the Forest Service guy, and suggested that to him, and he was like, yeah, that'd work, because they need a bigger than a trail dozer, but they need but that skid steer, a bigger skid steer would do everything they needed to do, and more. And so my suggestion on this would be to fund it at like 150,000 or something like that, and have them buy a skid steer, comparable skid steer to that dozer. And from what I hear, I think they'd be okay with that. So.
One of the things, thanks, Mike. One of the things that I did notice on this application, they didn't have any support letters from OHV groups. So it looks like this is more or less a county just trying to get a piece of equipment to do whatever on any of their roads, in which they said that they are using B road funds, and they essentially will be using it on B roads, which is not necessarily, like what Scott brought up earlier, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it just seems like cost for the number of miles of trail that they say that they're going to maintain with it is pretty high. And so that's my input on it. Dave, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wondered if the forest there has a trail dozer. If there's another way to maintain trails on their smaller stuff. This is only going to be good for their roads versus their 50-inch or 62-inch whatever trails. Just wondered if anybody has that information.
I do, actually. Sorry, Nicole. Wade, what was his name that I talked to?
His name is Kevin Christensen.
Yeah, no, the other guy, the forest that.
Oh, it was Myron Jeffs is who you talked to. We had a meeting. Mike and I had a meeting with Myron.
Yeah, and they're talking about the forest roads up there, and that's what he said when I made that suggestion about a skid steer. He was just like, well, we have a trail dozer and a little mini X and everything to do those 50-inch trails. And when I made it clear I was talking about a bigger skid steer with like an 8-foot dozer blade, a bigger skid steer, he was like, oh yeah, that would do what we need to do. And so they are looking for something to handle the maintenance of the wider roads, not necessarily the 50-inch trails, the wider 2 tracks and stuff. And the pictures had big mud holes and everything, and I think a skid steer would be the ideal piece of machinery to fix those mud holes, do that kind of spot maintenance that's needed versus just drop a blade on the whole 80 miles of road. So
hey, Mike, what would be the pros and cons of having a mid-size mini X with a 6-way blade on it? Is there some pros and cons of having a a mini X as opposed to a skid steer with, with a 6-way blade on it?
I think the pro to a skid steer would be a little bit more versatile. You can get a bunch of different attachments to the skid steer, where a mini X, a mini X is awesome, and you can do about anything with it. It's a little slower to get into places if you have to road it. A skid steer has buckets, and you can get backhoe attachments and with all the attachments on it. But
so would this be a wheeled skid steer or a track skid steer?
I'd buy the tracked skid steer.
And my question was pointed at you, Mike. Would 150,000 for a skid steer get them the attachments they need to, or would they still need that full 200,000 to get sort of the attachments that they need?
If I remember right, I think our skid steer, now it's been a few years, it was like 115,000 or something like that. And so that should give them enough to get, I think those dozer blades run in the $5,000 to $8,000. So that'd get them a bucket, probably forks, a dozer blade, for a little bit more. I mean, I wouldn't even care if we went to like 175,000 or something like that, just to give it some.
What if we kind of like said we would fund it, but kind of put the caveat back on them that the road department really needs to talk with the Forest Service and decide which piece of equipment is the right one, for them to work in partnership together the best, and then kind of leave it to them to decide together.
I think, Nicole, that Myra and Jeff did kind of say that after Mike talked to him, that I think that he was very on board with the skid steer rather than the dozer.
Did we talk to the county? Are they okay with that switch?
No, we did not talk with Kevin.
Well, that's my issue too, is kind of to Eric's point earlier, that they know what they need for what they're using it for. They're going to be splitting it between their roads, their other roads, and this 80 miles of trail. And they might need it for something bigger than this 80 miles of trail. But if they're bringing money to the table for their roads, and it will just so happen to work on this trail, I don't know that we necessarily have the say on what the best piece of equipment is for them. I think, to me, the bigger issue is there's no collaboration with an OHV group, and it's a lot of money for how many miles of trail they're lifting.
And I think I'm okay with this, but I would kind of like Jason just said, they kind of know what they need. Maybe they haven't thought about this, so kind of fund it, but put that caveat that they need to have that communication and have that conversation before they buy that piece of equipment.
Hey, Wade, have you have a conversation with, you say Brett Christensen? Is that the person? Have you had a conversation with him about the usage of that piece of equipment and their need?
Yeah, the original need, when I talked to him, the original need was to get a 50-inch trail cat. And when they went to the Forest Service told the county, when I refer to county, that's Kevin. Kevin is Sanpete County. They said the bigger need is for these class 2 roads that are part of the Arapeen Trail system. The 66 and below 66 inches, the Manti Forest said we're pretty confident in getting those done. But they said there's those roads that fall in between the 66-inch trails and the main county roads, or the main Forest Service roads. They're called class 2 Forest Service roads. Those receive absolutely zero maintenance. The Forest Service doesn't not have the manpower to do it, And those are not considered, even though they're part of the European trail system, they are not considered a trail because they are wider than 66 inches. So there's this little gray area that's fallen through that's where when they went to the Forest Service and said we wanted that 50-inch Waco, they said we wouldn't support it, but we would support you with something to maintain those level 2 roads. And Mike was in on that conversation that we had with the Forest Service on that. So that's why it went from a trail cat to a bigger piece of equipment.
Eric, go ahead.
I love to extend these conversations, especially where it's my last night. Just kidding. So as we're all aware, these machines are getting bigger and bigger. And I am, as much as anybody, I'm not a fan of making stuff easier or necessarily more comfortable, but there is issues on these roads. And really, if you think about it, we spend quite a bit of time on these class 2 roads when you're up the canyon. You are going back and forth, you're going down old fire roads, old logging roads. I mean, it's a lot of times it's this little bit bigger road, and it's already a road. So I don't know that they're going to be hurting it too much, but there's drainage issues a lot, and they do need to be maintained. And I can see how, you can see where they've used a trail cat on these bigger roads, and you're just going, man, I bet that was miserable. Bringing that in and doing all this work with just a little 50-inch trail dozer. But anyways, that's my thought. I support them with whatever they think they need. I think this is a good use of money. The area gets used like crazy. If these guys are all going to play nicely together and work together, let's give them the tools to do it, whatever they think they need.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, let's go ahead and vote on it.
Quick question. Are we just voting straight, like yes or no on the funding, or could the funding be used for the machine that Mike was talking about, or the one that's here in the proposal in front of us?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
So I make a motion that Evan reaches out and Maureen to look and see if they can rewrite the contract a little bit, to leave it up to them to find the best equipment they can for the best price they can that's less than what we're going to approve. Is that too long of a motion?
Probably. Well, I think to sum up what has been talked about is that they work with the Forest Service and a local group to identify what the best piece of equipment is.
I love it.
And I can support that.
Okay.
It might be best to name the specific stakeholders you'd like to see involved.
What are the OHV groups in Sanpete County that would?
I would recommend the Castle Country OHV group. They're the Manti and the Rome West. We already seen a letter of support from them on another application. That's a nonprofit out of Ephraim, but I think the bigger club would be Castle Country. So if we could put both in there, that would be great. But if you picked one or the other, Maureen, not to confuse it, Castle Country OHV is the one I'd recommend.
Okay, and then
the Forest
also
Service.
have them coordinate with the Forest Service.
Yeah.
Okay, does that work for everybody?
I'm good with that.
Cool. Let's go ahead and vote on this then. I think Brett already left. We'll go with Brody.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Nicole.
Yes.
Russ.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Okay, last one on the list is the Utah Avalanche Center forecasting. Any other discussion on this one, or do we want to vote on it? Oh, Mike's got his hand up.
Imagine that. I have something to say. So, yeah, I'd vote to fund this without the ambassador part.
Let me pull that budget up for you.
That we take that ambassador position out of it.
I was concerned about that also.
So that would take out both the ambassador wages and the materials. Is that right?
Yes.
But leave the forecasting. So we've got, it sounds like we've got a motion from Mike and a second by Scott. Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Let's, all those in favor of voting on it with the reduced budget, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on it with this revised budget. We'll start with, well, let's see. We'll start with Mike.
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Brody?
Yes.
And we'll finish it with Eric.
Sweet. Yes.
All right. And I guess I'll vote yes as well. Sorry.
Still my
Hey.
thunder, man.
Okay. Looks like that's all.
Awesome.
Do you have a summary for us, Evan, of what's been
Yeah, let me just give me 1 second here. I'm pulling it up for you guys.
super quick math?
So I can give you just the math real quick. I was going to try to pull up my fancy thing here, but so as of now, that would put the total awarded amount at $842,834. That leaves a balance of $100,732,
Awesome.
which would again, roll over.
Okay. Do we need a final vote to move this list forward, or are we good with how it is?
If everybody feels good.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time tonight. It was good discussions and good questions asked. We sure appreciate everybody, and we'll let Eric give us his parting words.
The closing prayer. Sweet. No, I just want I want you guys to know how much I've really appreciated doing this. You guys know I'm pretty passionate about land use and how we're spending our money, and I've got all the faith in the world in this current group moving forward. If you guys ever have any questions about what's happened in the past or anything like that, you guys are always more than welcome to hit me up. I might even maybe attend and cat call from the cheap seats sometimes, just to make sure the conversations are going well. But no, appreciate all you guys. Thanks for the opportunity. I love the program, and I like to see where it's going lately. So thanks, guys.
I'm gonna miss you, Eric, on it, because I know that you're passionate. I can tell it, so I always listen to what you had to say really intently. So I'm gonna miss you on here.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, and Eric, stop hanging out with old people.
I'll see what I can do. Thanks, Scott.
Rachel had a hand up.
Yeah. Well, also, Eric is trying to not hang out with old people. That's why he's leaving this committee.
Hey.
So, but yeah, I just want to kind of provide some highlights for our next grant meeting. I sent an email out to everyone. So just a quick update on, because Eric is leaving us and then so is Kirk. We're going to be opening up 2 advisory council positions. Those applications will go out on May 7th and it'll close May 31st at 5 p.m. And then our next council meeting will be virtual from 5:30 to 7:30. And that will take place on Wednesday, June 17th. So everyone should have received an email from me during this meeting. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. But again, Eric, thank you so much. And I know Kirk's not here, but I just want to thank him as well. You guys have done a phenomenal job. And I know we've put you through the ringer and we appreciate it.
Thanks. We'll miss you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. With that, I think we'll call that a wrap, and we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I make that motion?
You betcha.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting tonight.
Motion made by Eric.
I'll second.
We are adjourned. Eric, cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. And thank you, everybody, for just being a part of this. Really appreciate all the input.
See you guys.